Hey guys, my name is Sandy Sills. I'm a licensed realtor here in the Central Florida area. I'd like to talk to you about real estate investing. Investing in real estate, not just buying a home in real estate, but literally building wealth through real estate, which is something that I think most people could do, because since most people's dream is to buy a home, right, to have your own home, then why not have more than one home? Why not have one home that you live in and another home that you invest in? Or why not start investing in real estate and make it a goal to probably buy a property every 2 to 5 years, right? Based upon what the market is doing and what's going on. Why is this important? Because so many people have used real estate to build wealth, right? This is one way of building wealth. And if real estate is owned the correct way, you could make income from it, and that income will cover the cost will cover your carrying costs, right? So the cost to carry the property would be covered from the income you're making on the property. This video, I want to focus in on doing short-term rental or Airbnb. Now, I want to be clear that a short-term rental property is really what an Airbnb is. But Airbnb have done such a great job in establishing themselves in the short-term rental space that people, if you say short-term rental to someone, they're like, what's a short-term rental? Because if you say Airbnb, they're like, oh, Airbnb, right? I'm an agent, and if someone calls and say, yeah, I'm looking to invest in an Airbnb property, and I say, oh, you want to do short-term rental? They're like, no, I want to invest in an Airbnb property, which is the same thing. But just like Kleenex took over the name napkin, and just like Xerox took over the name copy, like I want to make a copy, I'm going to Xerox something instead of copying it. That's the same way Airbnb have done such a phenomenal job in that space. It's just like a jetted tub. A jetted tub in your bathroom, everybody refers to it as jacuzzi, right? I have a jacuzzi. But what is jacuzzi? Jacuzzi is the name of a company that made jetted tubs. But because they did such a phenomenal job in making jetted tubs and branding their names with jetted tubs became known as jacuzzi, right? But there's so many different companies that also make jetted tubs. So the same thing with the Airbnb space, right? So the Airbnb space is short-term rental. Now, I'm in Central Florida. I'm in the heart of Disney. There's a lot of short-term rentals there. I invest in short-term rentals here as well. But you could do short-term rentals anywhere across the country. I'm on several different groups on Facebook that all do short-term rentals, and I hear stories from all over the globe, right? People actually do use their mobile homes to do Airbnb. People sometimes rent their land, and people drive their trailer onto the land and rent it as an Airbnb. People rent cabins as Airbnb. I mean, there's so much different things you could do. People have converted their garage into an apartment and they rent that as an Airbnb, right? So the Airbnb space is great. But now, how do we build wealth in the Airbnb space, right? Are we just building wealth just based on how many bookings we could get in our property? Or is there another way? And I want to talk to you about both opportunities. The first opportunity is buying a property in the ideal location so you consistently get it rented. One of the questions my clients ask me all the time is, oh my goodness, there's so many Airbnbs in Central Florida, there's so many hotels, there's so many resorts. Disney have their own resort, Universal have their own resort, all these different homes and condos and townhomes that are also being used for short-term rental. How do you guys make money? And what I want to tell you is, if you have your property, if it's designed, I got asked this like 3 days ago, right? Because one of my buyers about to close on a short-term rental property, and his mom came to do a walkthrough with him, and she's like, well, how can we guarantee that this is going to be rented? There's so many other ones for rent. Guys, there's such a demand for this, and if your property, you're going to design your property based upon what you're doing, right? So for Disney in the Central Florida area, it's going to be designed around the Disney theme, or around the theme of golfing, because there's a lot of golfing also in Central Florida, or whatever it is, whatever the market you're targeting is. Once you are furnished and designed and staged to fit the market you're looking for, people will come, right? Once you market the property correctly online, people will come. They're gonna come, because I wish I had way more properties to rent, because I get these calls all the time. Oh, I'm looking to come down for 2 months. So I'm looking to come down for a month. Oh, I need a week. Oh, I need 2 weeks, right? All the time. There's always people coming. And you would think, well, can they just go on the Airbnb platform, or on Verbio, or on Booking.com, or on HomeAway.com and just get that, just rent it? Not that easy. You have to build your brand. You got to build trust. And if somebody knows you already are doing it, they're going to call you first before they go online because they know you, right? However, I have to start from somewhere, right? So you stage your home and make sure that your home looks exactly what you're putting online. So when you take all the pictures and you put them online, the house got to stay in that condition, right? We all know that you're going to have wear and tear. Some guests might come and they may do some damage. They might break a bowl. They might mess up the carpet, and you may have to do a steam clean, before the next guest checks in. But these are things that is needed to stay in that Airbnb space, and it's not a big deal, guys. It's not. People make it seem that every guest they encounter come in the house and destroy the house, and this is so not true. If you have 10 guests, you might have 8 good guests. You may have 2 bad ones, maybe one wasn't good, wasn't bad, and then the rest would be great, right? In any business that you're going to be in, you're going to have the good, the bad, and the indifference. If you're renting to a long-term tenant, you're going to find tenants that keeps the property clean, pay their rent on time, do everything they're supposed to do. And you're going to have the tenants that's going to come in and they're going to pay their rent on time, but when they move out, you may have to do a whole renovation, right? It's just life. The good thing about the Airbnb or the short-term rental space is you get to see the property after each guest leaves. So you have the ability to fix it back, clean it back, do whatever you need to do if there's damages before the next guest checks in, which is awesome. I like that part of it because I prefer to see the damages quicker so I could control them quicker than for someone to live in the property for a whole year and I don't see the damage until they move out. Because guess what? When you go in and do your monthly check or your check every 2 months or 3 months, they know how to hide these things. You're not going to see the true state of the property until they literally move out. They know how to hide it. If they know the wall is messed up, they're going to put a piece of furniture against that wall. And you're going to assume that there's something going on behind the wall. Right? Or if you're going towards the wall, they'll say something to distract you so you don't look at that. So that's what I'm trying to say. So how do I build wealth by Airbnb? You build wealth, one, by the income you're making, and you're going to build wealth by the equity you're collecting. Now, I know there's something called Airbridge, I think it's called, where a lot of coaches and investors are encouraging people to rent a house and then agree with the landlord that you will be doing Airbnb from that property, which is fine. I have nothing against that. But if you have to start that way, that's fine. But make sure your end goal is to start owning some of your own properties. Because even if let's say you built a phenomenal property management company and you're managing 60 properties, make sure you're taking some of that income and you're actually investing it back into real estate for yourself, because that's where the true wealth lies. The true wealth doesn't lie in what you're making on a daily basis. The true wealth lies in what you're accruing as the property sits there, right? The property sits there and the good thing about real estate is, yes, you got to maintain the property, but look at the equity that the property is building as it's sitting there. So what if you got to change the carpet once a year? So what if you got to go upgrade the kitchen? So what if you got to get new appliances, right? It's going to pay for itself if you hold it long enough. And if somebody is doing a short-term rental or Airbnb on a property and they're making profit, they're making money, they're not going to be going to sell it immediately. They're not going to be, I'm making so much money, I should sell it. Nobody, who says that? Nobody does, right? So the goal is to invest in real estate, use that real estate to get income. Airbnb is a great space to do that. And of course, if you're going to be doing Airbnb, why only do Airbnb? Why not do Booking.com? Why not put the property on Booking.com? Why not put the property on Verbio? Why not put the property on HomeAway? Why not advertise the property on Zillow as a short-term rental? So if someone is coming to relocate to the area and they are looking for a furnished home to rent for 1 to 6 months, why not provide that? That is a space that nobody is really paying attention to, and every single area have that problem. When I used to live in New York, I used to live upstate New York. Well, I live in New York City, then I went to upstate New York. When I was living upstate New York, that was not an area for short-term rental. Nobody would think about short-term rental there. But guess what we used to always run into as real estate agent? We used to always run into people trying to sell their home to buy another home, and they don't want to be homeless, and they always was asking us, is there any place I could rent for just a few months? Can I sell my house and just rent a home for 2 or 3 months until I buy another home? There goes the idea. Or maybe somebody's relocating. I used to live very close to West Point, a military base, and there'll be a lot of people moving to West Point, but they don't want to necessarily go on base. So they want to rent, but they don't want to rent for a year. They may want to rent just for a few months until they buy. Like, they don't want to commit to buying until they come to the area, learn the area, then buy. Can I rent a home for a few months, right? So you don't have to necessarily do short-term rental. You could do short-term, long-term. That's what I call that. Because short-term rental literally means you're renting for less than 30 days, right? So if you're renting for somebody for 2 or 3 months, it becomes short-term, long-term. And the thing about that is that becomes a little bit liability-free, because what you do is you collect the rent up front. So if somebody's coming to rent for 3 months, oh, sure, no problem. As long as you pay me 3 months rent up front and 1 month security, you're good to go. At the end of the time, at the end of your 3 months, you move out, I give you back your 1 month security, right? Short-term, long-term. Also in New York, there's all these things. They just changed a lot of rental rules and laws in New York. So this is one sure way of making sure you're not stuck with a tenant in your property for years and years and years and can't get them out, right? If you're renting only short-term, long-term, so let's say you're at a property and you're only renting the property for no more than 6 months, right? You furnish the property, it's completely turnkey, someone can come in, live in it, you have linens, you have spoons, forks, pots, everything is completely furnished, turnkey, just like you're renting a hotel, but you're only renting it to people that's renting 6 months or less. That's a space that I think is going to become very popular, especially now after COVID and everything is so virtual and there are more and more people working virtually. I am looking to see, I know this space is going to blow up. That's something I should probably think about. Maybe I could create my own company like Airbnb did, right? But this is a space, guys, that seriously, if you're thinking about doing Airbnb or short-term rental, you could also look into short-term, what do I call it? Short-term, long-term, that's my new phrase, right? Where you're renting your furnished property to people that are looking to rent, that are people, I can't talk, people that are looking to rent from 1 to 6 months. Guess what? The people who are looking to do that kind of renting are going to be paying your rent up front. They're going to be paying their security up front. And the funny thing about that is they're renting it furnished and everything is included, so you get to charge more. So if you had a property that if you put on the regular long-term market, you'd rent for $2,000 a month. If you're renting it furnished, you'll probably be able to do $2,500 to $3,000 a month based upon all the stuff that you're included in the rent, right? So let's pretend you have this property, you're doing short-term, long-term, and also Airbnb. So in between the time where you have those short-term, long-term tenants, the 1 to 6 month tenants, you do regular Airbnb, right? Guess what's happening while you're doing this and making all this great income? Guess what's happening in the background? The property is building equity, right? So if you have this property making all this income, after 2 years, guess what you could do? After 2 years, you could literally pull equity from that property and go do it on a second property, right? Or maybe do a multifamily next time, or an apartment, a small apartment complex, or a 4-family home. You're allowed to do a 4-family home and still remain residential, right? So maybe you could do that. But how cool would that be? Think about it. You're doing Airbnb, you're doing Verbia, you're doing Booking.com, and you're doing short-term, long-term. That's what I do with my properties, by the way. And if the market changes, you could still rent it to someone for a full year if you wanted to. What if somebody was relocating from out of the country? They were relocating from England or Dubai or wherever it is, and they're looking to rent for a year, and they're willing to pay 1 year up front, but they want a furnished place because they want to learn the area, because after a year they're going to either go back to their country or they might buy something they're not sure based upon their job. There's a lot of jobs that do that, guys. A lot of corporate companies relocate people. They put them on the 6 months to 1 year contract, and they don't know the country. So if they're able to rent a furnished property, a furnished home or a townhome or a condo with everything included, so they don't have to go search for that, you just became the convenience for them. And that's definitely a space. So this is how you build wealth, because you're building income, and every 2 to 5 years you're pulling equity and buying something else to do it over again with that other property, right? How rich would we be if we all did that? I wish I did that. I'm gonna start doing that now. This is my date today. Beginning today, I'm gonna start doing that. Yes, I have a few properties. Yes, I do real estate investment, but I was not buying a property every 2 to 5 years. So that's my new thing, right? And it doesn't matter how you start, right? I'm, older. So whether you are 25 or 50 or 60, whatever your age is, or 30, or wherever you are, why not make a commitment that, you know what, every 2 to 5 years, I'm going to buy another property that's going to give me income, and the property is going to sit there, and the property is going to build equity. right? And you don't have to pull all the equity out of any one property. Even if you had a property let's say it had $100,000 of equity in it, you could pull $50,000 from there, right? Go buy another property with that $50,000, and the other $50,000 is still left in that property. So you don't have to milk. I'm not telling you to pull everything out of the property to buy another property. I'm saying pull something out of it. And what if we could get a fix-you-upper? What if we get a fix-you-upper? We fix up the property, we do Airbnb or short-term, long-term with it, right? We already have equity building because it's a fix-you-upper. So we already bought it with the profit already in it. So by the time we finish fixing it, it already has equity in it. So we could pull some of that out while it's, making income for us and do it again. Guys, this is how we build generational wealth. This is how we become wealthy. This is what happens. And no matter where the market goes, guys, people have to live somewhere. And let me tell you, I've been coming to Orlando since 2003. I know by my son's age, right? We started coming here when he was 5. You could tell his age now. So from 2003, I've been coming here into Orlando, and I've never seen where there was no tourists in Orlando, ever. I didn't move here in 2003. We used to come here once a year or once every 2 years, while we did that. And then we moved in 2012. And in 2008 and 2009, when everything was going to the dog and the real estate market just sank and it was horrible living through that time, we were still coming on vacation here. And guess what? There were still people coming to Disney. Disney did not close down because of the recession or because of whatever happened or because the market wasn't doing whatever it's supposed to do. Disney was still here. And because Disney was still here, people were still coming. And because people were still coming, short-term rental was still happening here. So that happens everywhere in the world. Nothing comes to an halt. We went through COVID and that took the world to a halt, and nobody has ever lived through that before, right? Nobody has ever lived through COVID before. Nobody that's alive today lived through anything like COVID before in their entire life. Yet here we are trying to bounce back. They have developed the vaccine and we're coming back. And guess when was a great time to buy, guys? Last year, March, April, May, a lot of short-term rental properties were sitting on the market, right? The properties that were zoned for short-term rental, they were sitting on the market. Nobody wanted to buy them. People were speculating the market is going to crash. You shouldn't buy now. 1 year later, guys, these properties have shoot up in value, right? There are developments now with townhomes that were selling for like 180, 190 back then, last year. Guess how much they are now? 250, 260, right? Builders are in bidding wars. Builders that are building new construction homes are asking for ISN best offer, which is unheard of, right? What does that tell us? It tells us that nobody can predict what's going to happen to the market. And it also tells us that people always have to live somewhere. Nobody's going to live outside. People have to live, whether they're going to be buying or renting, people have to live somewhere. As long as that exists, then you can't go wrong with real estate, right? I'm going to end the video right here because I'm getting lengthy. Again, my name is Sandy. I'm in the Central Florida location. My number is 407-791-4713. I am going to have information below the video to tell you how to get in touch with us. Let us talk, and let me show you how we could build generation wealth through real estate, through Airbnb, through Verbio, through anything to do with real estate. Okay? Thank you so much for listening.
Introducing the Knock Home Swap, a new way to buy a house before selling your old one. Here's how it works. First, we get you approved for a new home loan. That way you can start making stronger offers on the houses you love. We'll even lend you the down payment on your new home so you can buy right away without worrying about your equity being tied up in your old house. Once you've bought your new home, we advance you up to 6 months of mortgage payments on the old house so you never have to pay 2 mortgages at the same time. Finally, we offer you up to $25,000 in prepaid home prep funds so you can sell your house for top dollar. And with a dedicated support team, we're there every step of the way to make sure your house sells as quickly as possible. We've spent a lot of time improving the real estate experience to give you more certainty, convenience, and cost savings. And we think that makes our home swap the best possible way to buy and sell a home. Find out more from your Knox certified agent today.